Cinemajaw is sponsored by Overcast, a better podcast app than whatever you're using right now. Unless it's Overcast. Get it now in the App Store, and we thank them for their support.
You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye the movie guy, and sitting inside the fish tank is Filmy and Phil.
Hello everyone.
Matt, this week on Cinemajaw, we continue our celebration of 2020 in film with our top 5 favorite performances of the year.
This is interesting. As I was compiling my list, Ryan, it is very different from my top 10 list. So I think Jawheads are in for a treat.
Well, that is good to hear. I tried to do the same, actually, Matt, because there's no point in constantly talking about the same exact movie week after week here. And we got 3 weeks billed here celebrating the year in film. And so I decided to at least pick 2 of my favorite performances on films we haven't had a chance to talk about here on Cinemajaw.
Yeah, same. At least 2, maybe more.
Now, it's a little bit different than in years past. I think it was last year we actually broke the performance, our top 5 performers into 2 different segments, or even episodes, I should say. We did an episode where we did our top 5 male performers, and then the following episode we did top 5 female performers. This year, we're throwing it all in one, top 5, supporting, lead, doesn't matter. You got to put it all together and figure out your top 5. That sound good, Matt?
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm on board.
When it's a difficult list like this, we have to have a great guest lined up.
Oh, yes, we do. Joining us shortly, Mark Dujsik is back, one of the most prolific film critics here in Chicago and perhaps the world, Ryan.
I love it because we joke about how many movies Mark sees. We will ask him. We will ask him again, Jawheads, because I know there were heart attacks and gasps around the world when Mark gave out his number last time.
You want to do an over under here, Ryan? I'll go 365.
Oh,
He's
that's got to be
day.
Low. That's got to be low because I follow him on Letterboxd, and I'm a Letterboxd guy. I know Mark will laugh at this, but I am about to hit 200 for the year.
Wow, that's
for
commendable.
me. That is epic. I remember the first year I was on Letterboxd, I hit 100 on the 31st of December, and I was like doing dances that I hit 100. Now I'm at 200, and this is only a few years later. So that's my number. I know Mark is double that. I know 100% he's over 400. So I'm going to take 420. What the hell?
420. Well, that's a good number.
That's
Nice.
a fun number.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, we'll go 420 for Mark.
All right.
All right. Besides that, we have a lot more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yeah, you know it, Ryan. In addition to closing off our celebration of Gary Oldman for the month, we are also going to end 2020 by celebrating another Patreon. This week we have Felisa all the way from Germany.
Wow, how awesome. Love celebrating these Patreons.
And we have a review of Disney Pixar's Soul.
Plus, Matt, a film that I think will come up here as we're talking about best performances of the year is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which
Indeed.
stars Viola Davis and Chadwick Boseman. And I thought this would be a good time for Matt to take Mark on in Chadwick Boseman, Viola Davis movie trivia.
Okay. All right. I'm down for that.
Their filmographies. So like I say, Matt, it is a jam-packed jaw like always. Let's get this thing started with a Gary Oldman fact.
Yes, our final Gary Oldman fact of the month. Besides their collaboration on Mank, Dave Fincher and Gary Oldman share one other connection. They were both married to Danya Fiorentino. Fincher married Fiorentino in 1990, and that lasted till 1995, while Oldman married Fiorentino from 1997 to 2001. And as a result, Fincher's daughter and Oldman's 2 sons, 3 children of Fiorentino's, are half siblings. And some more good news is that both marriages did reportedly end in disaster. So
Did you say more good
Don't
news?
stay all.
yes, I did. Was just a real upper of a way to end.
Strange working with someone who is also married to your ex-wife, right?
Well,
That
I
had to
was
be
thinking
strange.
the same thing until I heard about the children. If that's the case, then they were already in each other's lives. If they have half siblings, it is strange though. That's weird. But we're also talking about marriages that ended 20 plus years ago. So
And we're also
One of them
talking
only
about
ended
Gary
19
Oldman.
years ago.
19's close enough. It's water under the bridge at that point.
Wow. It's
Yeah.
been fun getting to know Mr. Oldman, eh?
Indeed, that was a good one. Good one.
All right. Without further ado, we bring in our guest, Mark Dujsik, writer over at markreviews.com. Welcome back to Cinemajaw.
Hello, it's markreviewsmovies.com.
Ooh, markreviews.movies.com.
I mean, I
Ryan.
don't review everything.
But you do review just about every movie.
I try to.
You heard us talking. We got Mark on Zoom. Strange thing is, this is Mark's second Zoom call ever.
And it's my second Zoom call of today. So I've
Who's the
used
first one?
for the Chicago Film Critics Association Awards. We announced those tonight.
Those bastards stole our premiere Zoom call
I know,
with Mark Dujsik.
I'm sorry.
So pissed off.
But it was great. It was a lot of fun. And but yeah, it was the first time I ever had to use Zoom. And so I downloaded the actual thing because about 20 minutes into the browser version, it was just the video was all over the place. I couldn't see anything. And so I downloaded the thing in the middle of it. It works now.
Well,
I'm happy with it. I like it.
You
This
sound
is not an
great.
advertisement.
Well, I was going to say, while we were introing you in the beginning and talking about how many movies Mark sees, you were making these faces on the Zoom, and I thought, I think I may be even low. Matt, what was your guess again?
I said 365. That's the days.
I came in at 420,
Yeah,
420.
which is a very good number.
Okay, so where are we at here, Mark?
Would you like to know how good a number 420 is?
Is it dead
I'd
on?
like to know.
That's exactly how many reviews I have listed on Letterboxd. Now, I don't review every single movie that I watch, though, for the year, because sometimes it just gets too busy.
But 420 reviews
Yes.
on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
For the year, just for stuff that's come out this year.
So if you had to take a stab at how many you've actually seen this year, what do you think that number is?
According to Letterboxd, and I think I have, let's see, I'm going to be seeing one movie for sure this week. So I'm going to probably end up at the end of the year with, let's say, 480.
Wow.
I didn't hit 500. I know.
I mean, there's how many days in a week go by that you don't watch at least one film?
This is a great question. I like to kind of cram everything in over the weekends. And so during the week, it's typically just writing and relaxing, playing video games at night. But over the weekend, I'm watching stuff, pretty much all day. So yeah, I mean, it's spread out. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's a hell of a life, just saying, hey, I got to watch these 10 movies. It's my job.
Yeah. I love doing it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love doing it. So that's the way it goes.
That's a beautiful
Absolutely.
thing.
I really thought this year I was going to be, last year was 420 something. And so I thought when theaters were closing off that, that's it for this year. But then I ended up watching more things because more things came out with all the virtual releases and the VOD releases and everything. And I tried to cover everything that I could, but I mean, there were so many things coming out this year. I don't understand people who say no movies came out this year. There were so many things.
I agree. I mean, last week on the show with Brian Tallarico, he even said the only difference was this year you might have had to seek it out a little bit more. Obviously, it wasn't the big tent poles being advertised on our televisions all the time. But I think for listeners of this podcast and other movie podcasts where we're talking about films, we were highlighting stuff all year long. It seemed like it never stopped.
Yeah, it didn't. It did not stop. And the thing is that it's harder to find these movies just because, the advertising isn't out there. But it's never been easier to find these movies once you know about them. And a lot of these rentals for these smaller independent films, they're like $7. to rent a movie for what, like a 48-hour period. And, that's less than the cost to go to a movie theater. And I don't, I wish people would seek these things out in a normal cycle when the theaters are open, but especially now, I don't understand how people who love movies aren't finding these things. I get the, general public, no interest in some of these things, but I mean, people who actually love movies, don't say there aren't any movies coming out. They're coming out. You're just not looking for them.
Well, that's what we're here for,
Exactly.
Mark. We're going to help them. We're going to illuminate some of these.
Yes.
So last week I asked Brian what his pet peeves were of watching so many movies at home. You're stuck at home for 2020. What have been the highlights of being at home and watching that many movies in your house? And what are the things that have just gotten under your skin and you can't wait to get back to the theater for?
The highlights are definitely seeing things that I might not have seen otherwise, just because a lot of these, when all this first started, they started putting out those digital releases and VOD releases right away in the virtual cinemas that helped out the local movie theaters. That was fantastic. The way that like Kino Lorber set up their Kino Marquee program and actually gave about half of the profits. I think it was exactly half of the profits from rentals to the independent theater that you rented through. That was great. And I wish a lot more independent distributors would do things like that. And I hope they follow that program in the future, especially if theaters aren't going to open up soon. So seeing all of these movies that I might have missed out on has been great. Some of them were duds and probably would have been direct to VOD anyway, but it happens. So that's been fantastic. The low point is just I miss going to the theater. I miss it. And I don't just miss like all of, my critic friends who I deeply, deeply miss going to movies and chatting up before and after the movie, but just the experience of going into a movie theater. We were talking beforehand that the last time I was in the theater was right before Tenet came out, and I went to go see Tenet in a completely empty house, except for me. And that was just
which
luck.
is probably a good thing.
I wouldn't have gone if there was anybody else in that theater. I was ready to cancel my ticket right up until it started if I needed to, because I was, I have family. I have, my wife, works at a school, and there's no reason to risk and everybody for all of this. It doesn't make any sense. So I was in the car waiting to see if anybody else bought a ticket right up until showtime. And when nobody else got one, that's when I went to the theater with my mask on the entire time. I didn't have anything to eat. I didn't have anything to drink. I wore that mask the entire time, and I felt fine, and everything went fine. But that's the only way I could really recommend people going to movie theaters right now, which sucks because, like I said, I missed that experience just going to the movie theater, and I haven't gotten past it yet. But it is not a good time to be doing that right now.
No, agree.
Agreed. But in 2021, I think we're going to see each other, Mark. I think at some point throughout the year, I think we will get back to.
Yeah, we'll still be wearing masks, and that's fine. It's not that bad. It's fine. I have some nice decorative masks. I got some nice plain ones when I need to look, businessy. But I got some fun ones. I got something with the shining on it. I got my porgs.
I just can't
doing
believe
it right.
Yeah, I can't believe Mark looks businessy. I gotta see that look,
businessy, Mark. But I'm just saying, if I needed to, I'm ready.
Get one of those reversible masks.
I think
that would defeat the purpose.
No, I mean one side of it's plain, the other side is playful.
So the mullet of
exactly
facial
the
protection.
mullet of masks.
Still think it defeats the purpose, Matt.
Maybe,
I don't think the spit's still on the inside.
Well, you would wear it. Never mind, you guys. Never mind.
Just forget it.
Just forget
technicalities.
Right. Yeah. For the jawheads listening to this at home that want to read your reviews, Mark, want to follow you on Twitter, all that good stuff, where should we send them online?
MarkReviewsMovies.com is the best place to go. That's where you can find everything. I have the archives listed for all the reviews that are there and any other review that I have somewhere else. The times that I can contribute to RogerEbert.com, those are linked on there. And as for Letterboxd, I'm at letterboxd.com/Mark Dujsik, Dujsik, all one word. And that's where you can see my magnificent adventures in probably unhealthy obsession.
And we will put all the links as we always do. And I challenge the Jawheads. If you think you saw a movie in 2020 that Mark didn't review, just go check. It's probably there.
Yeah, you probably spelled the movie wrong.
Yeah, probably. And if I didn't review it, it might be listed as just under the rating for the year too. So
there you go. No, that Letterboxd, I'm not a sponsor here, but I do want to say great app. I love going on there, logging my movie, and then seeing what my friends have seen. And without a doubt, Mark has already seen the movie. So since me and Mark follow each other, that's one person I know I'm going to look up and get a review and a star rating from after I've seen the movie. So very fun app if you're not on it, Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Also not an ad, like you said.
Yep.
We just personally endorse it.
So Mark is sitting in on this entire Jaw. He has his top 5 performances picked out. Before we get there, though, Matt, Pixar has a new movie out.
One of the bright spots in 2020 was the promise of 2 new Disney animated films in Onward and Soul. The former came out and was decent, but Soul promised to be a greater movie. After all, this is Pixar and a film with more of that inside-out feeling. Can Soul deliver on those high expectations, or will it just ghost us? Ryan, Mark, and I headed to Disney Plus to find out.
Must have been sudden for you.
What? Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Help! I'm not done! Oh my goodness! Huh? Is this heaven?
No, it's the great before. This is where new souls get their personalities, quirks, and interests before they go to Earth.
Meet 22.
I don't want to go to Earth.
Stop fighting this.
I don't want to.
Hey, look, I already know everything about Earth, and I don't want anything to do with it.
You're missing out on the joys of life, like pizza. I can't smell. We can't taste either.
All that stuff is in your body.
No smell, no taste.
Or touch. See?
Okay, I get it.
Soul follows the story of Joe, voiced by Jamie Foxx, a middle-aged high school music teacher who hasn't quite given up on his dreams of becoming a famous jazz musician. He gets a big break after auditioning for some respected musicians, but has an accident on his way home and finds himself a disembodied soul on his way to the great beyond. Joe manages to escape ascension and hides out in the great before, a training ground of sorts for new souls that have not yet lived on Earth. It's there that he meets 22, a wayward soul voiced by Tina Fey, and has thus refused to find her spark and join the world of the living. The pair hatch a plot that will get Joe back to his body and 22 a permanent stay in the great before. Guys, let me just come out and say this. This is no Inside Out. Soul does contain all the elements of world building that an Over the Moon missed, but somehow it still misses the high emotions of the same. I think the problem is the emotional stakes just weren't high enough or even there present whatsoever. Once they start dealing with the afterlife and characters that can body hop and travel between planes, life and death just doesn't mean anything. While Inside Out gave us an honest, though very imaginative, look inside the head of a teenager, Soul feels flat by comparison and unrealistic. Also, let's talk about Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. They are clearly the Oscar bait duo du jour, and that respect is well earned. But here I feel it was wasted. Since Joe is a jazz musician, the soundtrack should have been all about jazz. The very story arc in the world could have and should have incorporated that freewheeling feeling of jazz improvisation. I think the soundtrack that exists is highly professional and will no doubt turn some voters' heads come award season. But personally, I think the two were wasted here. There are some cool side characters like a sign spinner who is secretly a trans-dimensional rescue boat captain, and the Sea of the Lost Souls was a great set piece. I also commend the diversity of the cast and crew for the most part, and it was refreshing to see Pixar feature a middle-aged black protagonist. However, I just did not flow with Soul. You guys?
Let me tell you, man, I think you're off on this one. You're on when you say that this film probably resembles Inside Out as far as the Pixar family of films here. It's, this existential journey filled, I thought, with wonderful music, soul-searching themes, and family humor. But I would say Soul is aimed at adults more so than any other Pixar film to date. I thought the voice casting, like you mentioned, of Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey, I thought were perfect. And I guess I'm one of those voters because the highlight for me was the score. That otherworldly score by Trent Reznor was incredible. And that was played over what I would say was my favorite part of the animation, which was seeing Pixar actually animate the unknown, the in-between, the before, the great before, and the great beyond, all that mystery that they had a chance to finally animate and show. And there were a couple of scenes there where Joe or 22 were making the jump to maybe try to get back to Earth. And that music that was playing over those scenes was literally incredible, brought tears to my eyes. I was a big fan of Soul. Mark?
I'm a pretty big fan of it too. I don't know what else you wanted from the world building. I really enjoyed that part the most. I felt a little slightly underwhelmed when they do go back to Earth for a little sojourn in different bodies, but right once they get into the afterlife, that weird escalator treadmill thing leading to this bright white void where people, souls go in and they just pop. That kind of got me.
Run.
Yeah. But it just right from that start of seeing these things and the way that they develop that world of the pre-life or before life or the great before, there's a lot of great visual gags in there. There's a lot of fantastic vocal work. I loved all the Jerrys, and I particularly like Terry, the persnickety accountant who's just going around counting everything. And I love the design of them too. They look like figures in an abstract painting. And when, I don't want to give away too much, but some of those figures end up interacting with the world as we know it in really intriguing ways because they're abstract figures. They can move between lines in sidewalks and other things. And it's just so inventive. And that was what I really liked about it, was the inventiveness of the vision of the world and all the gags within it. And I think it tells a good story. I do agree it doesn't quite hit on an emotional level like some of Pete Docter's other films like Inside Out or Up. Nothing's going to top the first 10 minutes of Up in terms of emotional impact. But I do think that it has some good ideas about life and death and what the purpose of life is and why we have to think about death and to some degree to have a good life, but we shouldn't let it get in the way. And also I kind of connected to the whole thing of finding your spark and not letting it become an obsession to the point. I kind of wish they had done a little bit more with that because Joe is pretty much obsessed with his
Sure.
music. I kind of would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that, digging into that versus just having it be this inspiring tale about trying to get back to Earth and getting that one last gig in before, whatever lies beyond the great beyond.
It's almost like a hindrance to some degree that these Pixar movies are family oriented, because I think what we would like in our age group is more exploring of like the spark in life and accepting death and all the good points and themes that you brought up, Mark. But at the same point, it does turn into a little bit of this like journey of trying to get, out of the bodies and
body humor.
Right.
Yeah.
That we probably were like, okay, that's the weaker point of the film.
It's the weaker point.
But if kids are watching it, they're going to enjoy that.
Yeah, I know. I still found it entertaining. I still found all that stuff on Earth entertaining. It's just, I kind of would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the before life.
It's fair. Listen, this is I think where I'm going with my criticism of this film. First of all, I think that the character designs of the Jerrys, which might be a nod to Rick and Morty, I'm not sure. If you go ahead and watch the Phantom Toll Booth, I think you'll find characters very reminiscent of those designs way back in 1970. Also, what I meant by world building, I think it does have better world building than Over the Moon, which totally lacked. It was all style and no substance. Here we have substance, but when we look at an Inside Out, even though it's an allegory, it's a distortion or sort of an interpretation of what's inside somebody's mind. Obviously, we don't all have like real anthropomorphic characters that represent each emotion inside of our heads, but we can understand that world because we all really do have different feelings that are at conflict at different times in our life. Here, the great beyond and the things that are presented, are pure fantasy. And I'm not saying by that there isn't some sort of, great beyond, and there probably is, but if there is, I'm sure Disney Pixar isn't like, portraying it accurately, if you will.
I'm not so sure, Matt.
Yeah.
I don't know. Out about an experience that we don't know about. You surf the astral plane by meditation.
Yeah, I think Matt's wrong on this one.
It just all seems very stretchy and woo-woo, and I didn't like it. In fact, interestingly enough, when they come back down to Earth and they're actually dealing with real human things, that's when I was the most engaged with this story. When he has the confrontation with his mom, when they're in the barber shop, things like this.
The barber shop was a fantastic scene.
Totally. All the stuff in the Great Beyond, which, by the way, is freaking terrifying when they're riding that. I agree, visually stunning, but when they're riding that escalator up to the bug zapper, I mean, what the hell is that? It looked like a conveyor belt to oblivion.
Yeah. No handrails either.
Oh, scared the shit out of me, guys. I don't know.
And it should be scary. It's death.
I suppose. But they're all just like, standing there holding their handbags like on a little journey. They look very happy. Joe is doing the right thing by running in terror.
Oh, I'm sure other souls do that too. It's just those other ones are probably, like, oh, we're good. Let's see what's over there.
Yeah. But I don't know. I didn't buy it. I don't think the emotional stakes were high. I do think that the soundtrack was good. Those guys are great, but it didn't seem to fit the story and the characters.
I feel though as if, and I did rewatch this today just to make sure about some of the other things in it, but I didn't notice the score because I just kind of took it as a given that it was great. But I do kind of vaguely recall that when they're on Earth, the score is a bit jazzier than So, I mean, it is there.
It is, but I don't know if jazz necessarily is Trent Reznor's forte. I don't think 9 Inch Nails when I think of jazz. You know what I'm saying?
True. And I think where the score soars is in those
ethereal
places, right? Whenever it was, in the Great Beyond or the Great Before, in those scenes, that's when the score is at its height.
Low Pixar for me, fellas. Low Pixar for me.
No,
sorry.
Mid high for me. I mean,
same.
It's
here.
definitely not as good as Inside Out or Up, or maybe even Monsters Inc. And I'd like to point out, we always talk about Pixar as, almost the author of these films, but it's nice to see Pete Docter. He directed all of those that I just mentioned. And it's nice to see that when you have that foundation of a group of artists, an in-house group of artists, that you can now have a very clear voice like Pete Docter's coming through with this technology, being able to use it to take these ideas that they can come up with and put them on screen in ways that sometimes we haven't seen before. So I do like that. It's kind of, they're almost building up a Studio Ghibli sort of thing here in the US in computer animation form, which is nice.
No argument.
And I've only had the chance to see it once. I'm excited to come back and revisit Soul, but for my money, it's one of the better films of the year. Didn't make my top 10, but just outside.
Yeah, it's in my top 20.
We like to end with a movie poster quote. Matt, what do you got?
Soul, it has none.
Oh my God.
How about
harsh.
That? How about
Absolutely
that?
harsh.
Maybe a little harsh, but I mean, you know what? It was a pun. I had to go there,
Oh my God.
It was a negative review. What do you got, Rye?
I went with no soul searching needed. This is an easy choice. See Pixar's Soul.
Boo.
Too wordy. Mark, you got a movie poster quote.
Not quite to infinity, but definitely beyond.
Ooh.
There you go. I like that one.
Man, we got to go to Mark more often.
You guys do this every week. Mark.
I know. He just blew us out of the water right off the cuff.
Sorry.
How many jaws are you giving this one, Ryan?
We're on a 4-jaw scale, Mark. How many jaws?
With halves?
You can do halves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, 3.5 out of 4.
3.5 out of 4. I'm even going with a quarter in there. I'm going 3 3/4, 3.75. It's almost perfect for me.
2 Jaws, you guys.
Oh, come on.
This movie just missed for me. Maybe there's something there that you guys saw that I didn't. I'll give it another spin, but I just did not connect with it. Sorry.
Wow. You have no soul, Matt.
Yeah, guess not.
Wow. All right. So 3.75 from Rye the Movie Guy, 3.5 from Mark Dujsik, and 2 Jaws from Matt K. Soul premiered on Christmas Day, currently streaming on Disney Plus. If you see it, you agree, disagree, just want to comment on the review, shoot us an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. It brings us to our top 5 this week. And in honor of highlighting 2020, we are covering our top 5 favorite performers of the year. Mark, you just got done voting in the Critics Awards, and you had to nominate in every category. Me and Matt are currently doing this in our critic group. And now you had to narrow it down to just the top 5 performers of the year.
Yeah.
It's hard for you to come up with, or do you got 5?
You know what? It was much, much harder to come up with the 5 and then some in the other in individual categories. And I, kind of ignorantly didn't think, we're just doing top 5 performances. I thought this was going to be a 3-hour episode. I was all prepared for a 3-hour episode with every single category. So right before the show, when you told me only 5 overall, it was actually pretty easy to whittle it down from there are 4 categories from the 40 that I had listed. It was pretty easy to whittle down to 5. Now, that doesn't mean the other ones aren't worthy. It's just that when I looked at them, these 5 were I felt very comfortable with.
All right. I like it. Well, you're our guest. You're getting us started this week. What do you got sitting at number 5?
My number 5 is Maria Bakalova in Borat's subsequent movie film, Delivery a Prodigious Bribe to American Regime for Make Benefit Once Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan. I don't know where they found this woman, but she is just amazing. When the first Borat movie came out, I thought Sacha Baron Cohen was just great. He was snubbed at the Oscars and by pretty much every other award show. I think the Golden Globes gave him a Golden Globe, but it's a Golden Globe, whatever. But I don't know where they found her, but she actually surpasses Cohen's work in this one.
She has, I agree.
I would argue she has the moment of the year. And can we spoil this at this point? Because it made news.
So.
There's so many moments.
There are so many. Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting to. But there are so many moments. The dance at the debutante ball.
That was my favorite.
Oh my God. I was dying. It's not quite as funny as the fight in the first Borat, but it's up there. Mm-hmm. But when she gets Rudy Giuliani into that hotel room pretending to be a journalist with that accent, and you think where that scene is going to go, but instead it turned into a national scandal that he tried to overcome with this really, really terrible excuse that nobody bought. But just her ability to do that, Cohen is a master of fooling people. And I love how this film plays off of that. Everybody knows who Borat is now, so he can't get away with this stuff. So bringing her in is just a masterstroke of comic ingenuity and necessity in terms of what they're trying to do, but also just finding her. She's a natural at this, and not just in terms of fooling people, but just giving this really great performance, transforming from this like kind of mousy, woman who's just living in a shack to someone who is completely confident and at ease with herself in what she's doing as the character. It's a great performance, but beyond that, just to be able to pull off a stunt like that and make it become national news, which is something that I don't think Sacha Baron Cohen has been able to do yet. Maybe a couple of times, but not to this level where it might have affected a national election. You must have forgotten the time he spilled the ashes all over Ryan Seacrest on the red carpet. Oh yeah, that's right. He was in character of the dictator, and he was talking about how he was carrying the ashes of somebody, and he ends up spilling it all over Ryan Seacrest while he's getting interviewed. Hilarious.
For this lady to go toe to toe with Sacha Baron Cohen, who's been at this for years and years, and she's an unknown, that's an accomplishment. There's no doubt. And I think you're right. She has the sort of the movie moment of the year right there.
Yep. Good pick at number 5. How do you follow that up, Matt K?
I'm going with John Goodman in Unhinged. I mean, wait, no, that was Russell Crowe.
Was that a joke?
Yeah. It was a
okay.
joke.
I wanted to make sure that was a joke.
But can I just say that right now it's really hard to tell the two of them apart. But Russell Crowe in Unhinged is quite a performance. We haven't seen him in a while, and he comes out guns blazing, turns in this super intense, menacing performance. The movie was a nice, tight little thriller that is probably going to get lost here at the end of the year, and perhaps rightfully so. But that Russell Crowe performance, well, it was unhinged, Rye.
This is one of those that I think did well and shocked a lot of people, and more people might have saw it because of the pandemic. It came out at a time when we were looking for sort of a big kind of action movie. You know, it was billed, at least we were talking about it as like Falling Down meets Fast and the Furious. And
well, I wouldn't go Fast and Furious, but Falling Down might, maybe, yeah.
And next thing you know, you get this unhinged Russell Crowe. I enjoyed the performance. Is it anywhere near my top 5 favorite performances? No, but I did enjoy the movie. I don't know where Mark sits on it.
Yeah, I liked the movie too, and I liked Crowe, but I actually preferred Karen Pistorius as the actual protagonist in it. I think she's really good in that. But yeah, no, I mean it's a fine pick. Crowe is really unstable and unnerving in that, and he really commits to it. Yeah, it's a good performance. It's a good villain performance, and he plays a flat out villain, and I like that about the movie the most.
I did too, because being Russell Crowe, you always think in the back of your mind, well, at the end he's going to turn and still have some sort of saving grace.
Yeah,
no, not with this guy.
Nothing. No, there's no excusing his character or anything he does in it. He's just a bad guy.
I like it. My number 5 pick is a movie we have not talked about all year on Cinemajaw, and it is streaming now on Amazon Prime. I like this actor, and I was starting to worry if he was not going to have another really big role in him. You might know him best, Matt, as Vision in the Marvel Universe. I'm going with Paul Bettany in Uncle Frank. And this film is set in the 1970s, and Bettany plays Frank, who lives in New York. His parents and siblings live in South Carolina. When his niece gets old enough and she's going to college, she actually ends up attending school in New York and comes across some information about Uncle Frank. Turns out he's gay and in a wonderful relationship with a guy named Wally. Wally's acting performance as well in this movie is fantastic. Well, Frank has been hiding this from his family as they're not accepting. And then after a death in the family, Frank and his niece have to make basically a road trip down to South Carolina to get back to the family. So the movie takes over sort of a road trip like feel for the mid part of the film. The ending of the movie, I think, just didn't work, unfortunately, for me to get really behind Uncle Frank as a film as a whole. However, the performances here, both by the actor who plays Wally, who I didn't write down, Mark might know who it is, and also Paul Bettany, who I'm highlighting here as Frank, are just fantastic. It's a real heartfelt movie. Great drama, Amazon Prime. Check it out.
Nice pick.
Yeah. Mark, do you know the actor's name who's in Uncle Frank?
I don't. I'm trying to find it. Well, this is the nice thing. I can actually look it up.
Throw it in the fish tank.
Throw it in the fish tank. There we go.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I agree with you that they're fine performances through the whole movie, but yeah, that ending really just soured it for me, because it's just, they build up this whole, thing of just how miserable this guy's life is, and you get it. And then just everything just kind of falls into place, and it completely undermines everything the movie did beforehand, and it doesn't feel honest. I feel like that's the start of an actual movie there at the very end. I would love to have seen how those relationships unfold after what happens, but that feels like the start to the movie for me.
Yeah. And I thought, acting wise, especially, I thought like the first 30 minutes of the movie, like once we find out that Frank is gay and has this this relationship in New York with Wally. I thought, oh man, this movie is really going to be something special. And you see where it's going. And I unfortunately, the ending, like you had said, Mark, it just doesn't really work and sort of hurts the film as a whole. But the performance by Paul Bettany is great. Into our 4s we go. What do you got sitting there, Mark?
My number 4 is Jesse Buckley, and I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
Nice.
Which is a apparently divisive movie, not just from people who are coming across on Netflix and being, what the hell is this thing? But also critics too, because I think partially because of Jesse Buckley's character and what she turns out to be. It's really hard to describe how great her performance in this is without kind of giving away some of the stuff. So I'm not going to, but what's important about it is that she creates this completely realistic character from a character who might not quite be at that level. I just talked myself around that, so it makes absolutely no sense, except perhaps to people who've seen it. So
right.
I think it worked. So, but her performance is great because she's playing not just one character, but kind of all of these other characters within the framing of this kind of idealized woman. And that's also not giving away too much, I think, because the film it specifically sets it up that she's not, and that everything about this situation is messed up and you have no clue what's going on, and that's intentional. So I don't think that's it, but you get a sense of her character, even though you have no sense of who she is, what she's doing there, who she's supposed to be, or anything like that. But you get this sense from her. She's a fantastic actor. And I've just really like seeing her come into her own over her career, because I think she started off in a movie called Beast. It might have been her big break. She was just in the most recent season of Fargo, and she's fantastic in that. She's just hamming it up and loving every minute of it.
She's the nurse in there, right?
Yeah, she's the murderous nurse in that.
I haven't finished the whole season yet.
Okay.
But yeah,
it's good. It's good. But yeah, she's fantastic in this. And I gotta say, her quoting Pauline Kael while smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
It's just great. It's just great. Just great stuff.
Great performance, for sure. Definitely one I have marked down that I could have mentioned on my list. Matt, what do you got it for?
It's funny. I'm going to echo Mark in a sense, but I'm going with the other Jesse from I'm Thinking of Ending Things. And this is where I slot in Fat Damon himself, Jesse Plemons. Who's, I think, ascended that nickname at this point, Ryan.
Yeah, but I mean, it's such a great nickname,
it
Fat
is.
Damon, that it's tough to just not call him that every once in a while.
You can't throw something that good away. I get it. Anyway, Jesse Plemons, also to echo what you were saying, Mark, they switch characters sometimes mid-scene, and it's a very confusing, challenging, bleak movie. Not one that I would revisit anytime soon. I suppose I would say you'd have to be in the right mood, but like, when are you ever in that mood, really? And if you are,
I mean, personally a lot, but
then it's the tub of ice cream, I guess. But then that's not the kind of movie you want to watch when you're in that mood either, is it? I don't know, but it is a damn fine performance from both the Jessies in a challenging picture. I mean, all of Kaufman's work is a little confrontational on some level or another, and this one is perhaps his most confrontational. So I do suggest everyone check it out, but just not when you're in the mood for a feel-good flick, because it ain't that.
No.
Agree. Totally agree.
Definitely not. But yeah, he is great.
Jesse Plemons is great.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to get to her, but so we might as well just talk about her right here, is Toni Collette in a supporting role in the film as well. I think she's also excellent here. So all around for I'm Thinking of Ending Things, I think the cast is great.
Agree.
But I'll pick it up since we're talking about a depressing pick here with Mark and Matt. I'm going full blown by feel good comedy, musical comedy of the year. I'm actually putting Rachel McAdams, one half of Fire Saga, as my number 4 performance of the year.
I went to the Galgarin lava field to ask the elves to help us. Hear me out.
Hold on.
No.
Elves again.
Don't do it.
You know I have nothing to do with elves.
Lars, shut your mouth or the elves will shut it for you!
Please, elves don't exist, Sigrid.
You're killing me! Take it back!
I can't take it back.
You have to take it back.
Look, it's not going to be elves that get us into the song contest this year. It's going to be the perfect song.
Plus elves.
I loved it that much. I've talked about it last week when you dropped the bomb of having it at number 3 on your list of the year, Matt, which is still stunning and I still love it. But I talked about it then. I've watched this movie and at least clips of this movie more than I have any other 2020 release. I just keep going back to it. And McAdams in here is funny. She's lovable. It's everything you need in a comedy of this nature. And she does sing. I looked this up. She does sing the songs.
Sure.
But it's also blended with another singer. So I don't want to make it sound, because there's a couple of numbers you would just think, well, that just possibly can't be Rachel McAdams. So they did blend in another singer involved. But still, her enthusiasm in those particular scenes, I went back and I've watched the Song-a-thon or their first big performance when her scarf gets stuck in the big wheel that that Will Ferrell is riding around in. All of those moments, she's so enthusiastic on stage and in front of the camera that it becomes a way of like smiling and joining in and feeling enjoyment for everything on screen. She's by far the reason I love Eurovision as much as I do. The number one reason is Rachel McAdams.
All right.
Nice. I don't know where do you sit on this one pretty high, Mark, or are you going to poo-poo this pick?
You found it. You found the movie I haven't seen this year.
No,
I haven't seen Eurovision. No, I haven't seen it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I was just looking it up, so I will watch it. I just saw it's like over 2 hours long. I was going to watch it tonight after this, but
Mark,
I don't know if that's going to happen.
The complaint, even last week talking to Tellerico, the complaint that we have is that it is a little bit too long for sure.
Okay.
But it's a great movie. You're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I will definitely watch it within the week, so
there you
that
go.
I can see what I feel about it. But Rachel McAdams is in general a great actor. So, and she's hilarious too, which we all found out on game night. So if she's half as funny in this as she is in that, then I'll probably like her performance in this too. So,
yep. Into our threes we go.
My number 3 is Chadwick Boseman in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
Nice, strong pick.
This is so difficult to talk about because I really don't want to talk about the fact that he's dead, because it's just heartbreaking, and also it feels like it diminishes how great his performance in this is. But you can't watch this film and not without that knowledge in your head, and I'm hoping one day we'll be able to at least appreciate the performance beyond that without being constantly reminded that we lost him. But his performance in this, knowing what he was going through and seeing how committed he is to this role, how energetic he is, the depths that he reaches into in this performance, I don't know how he did it. I honestly don't know, knowing what happened to him and what he was going through. I don't know how he pulled this off, but he's a great actor. This is probably his best work, and it's the one that the last one we're going to see from him, except for whatever those Marvel clip shows are. And it's depressing, but it is so great of a performance that at least we have that. But yeah, I mean, he has these 2 monologues in the film, and that's a potential for a show-offy sort of thing, but he doesn't do it. He really digs into it, and a lot of that has to do with the way it's filmed. It's based on an August Wilson play, and it's presented mostly as almost theater in the round, where the camera is just seeing the actors from every angle that it possibly can. But Wilson's dialogue is always so naturalistic, even when characters are monologuing, and I think that the whole cast pulls off that sort of that dialogue off really well, but Boseman completely nails it in those 2 monologue scenes. He's just fantastic in it.
Yeah.
I do look forward to the day that we'll be able to talk about the performance on a deeper level than just this is his last role that we're going to see him in. And I think there's a lot of meat to the performance that we'll be able to do that, however long it takes us to kind of get over the fact that he's gone. So
right. I had sent out a tweet after watching the movie, and I joked that there's very seldom an applause break in a movie when I'm watching these alone in my screening room. But there were 2 applause breaks during Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and it was Boseman's performance in those monologues. It literally had me, wiping tears away and applauding the performance, and just sad on the level of the monologue and the subject matter that they're talking about. B, the fact that we lost this great talent. All of it combined for just a very sad and somber watch, but one that I completely respect, and I think will, my guess, earn him an Oscar.
I think he's a shoo-in, you guys. I don't want to, that performance, I'm not sure if it's the best of his career, but it's certainly a contender. If it's not number 1, it's number 2. It was fantastic. I also want to give the nod to Viola Davis, who was doing a lot through some pretty heavy makeup in that picture, and really put in this physical performance that was pretty good.
We haven't had a chance to review Ma Rainey's Black Bottom on Cinemajaw, so I do want to highlight one scene in that movie that I thought us podcasters could really appreciate, Matt, and that was when...
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Yeah, they have this cousin. Is it the cousin? I forget, or nephew, I guess.
It's her nephew.
Nephew, yeah, it's her nephew, and he has a stuttering problem, but
they're pretty severe.
She has said that he can record the record, and the entire band and the people recording the record are saying, let's just move on and not have him be part of the record. Well, finally he gets this part right, and lo and behold, the microphone isn't connected to the recording. And I thought, doing Cinemajaw for as many years as we've been doing it, approaching 500 episodes now, we've had our moments where things have happened that you just can't believe after something fantastic has happened on the podcast. Yeah. And so I think we related really well to that. It's a great joke, but I think the more you're into the world of recording and have been there, it was even funnier. Not as big a fan of the movie as I am the performances in Ma Rainey's, but
same.
Great pick. Great pick, Mark.
It's solid. It's a solid film.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm switching gears here, and I don't mean to go back to Eurovision, but it had a standout performance that was not Rachel McAdams or Will Ferrell. And of course, I'm talking about Dan Stevens, who I think really...
Wait, we got back-to-back Eurovision picks here? This is unbelievable.
We do, and I feel bad. Like, really, Mark, you've seen 800 movies this year. This is the one movie you didn't see. Dan Stevens plays this character, Alexander, who's kind of the heel, but at the same time, very warm, and we wind up just falling in love with his animal magnetism, his sheer, like, European machismo that just, like... oozes out of this character. It's like ridiculous, over the top, but yet it kind of feels earned at the same time. I want Dan Stevens to play this character again. I loved it so much. It was like almost like a parody of a Bond villain in the most fun way imaginable. And it put Dan Stevens on my map. Like, I know he's done other stuff prior to this, but I was not aware of him, and now I'm a big fan. There you go.
Wow.
You didn't dive into Downton Abbey when it was on?
Not at all. I mean, my mom keeps trying to convince me to watch Downton Abbey, but I don't think it's likely.
All right. So now I'm switching gears again. We went comedy with Matt. This time I'm going to go into the drama category as my number 3 pick. People will be familiar with this actress if they have watched Ozarks. I'm going with Julia Garner in The Assistant. Now, this film was directed by Kitty Green, another film we have not talked about on Cinemajaw. And Garner plays Jane, a recent college graduate. She's like an aspiring film producer who lands a job as an assistant to a powerful entertainment mogul, if you will. And this person, it's pretty easy to see, is based off of Harvey Weinstein. And throughout her day, and we never really get to know that character. I should say, see that character. We more or less hear his actions, and we see her day-to-day duties. And she grows increasingly aware of like the abuse that is taking place in the office that she's working for, but also the industry as a whole and the different aspects of it that come into play. And she finally, at one point, goes to HR to complain and bring this incident up. And that particular scene where she's talking to this guy who works in HR, who really doesn't want to hear her complaint and tries to turn the whole thing around on her, is just A, incredibly frustrating. B, I love the scene because it's so well acted. And she also has the scene at the end when she's talking to her parents, talking up about her job, even though we've just seen everything that she's seen for the last hour and 45 minutes. And she still tries to, be happy when she's talking to her parents and describe her job.
What's the title of the film one more time?
The Assistant.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on Hulu right now, as far as I know.
You a fan of this one, Mark?
I liked it, yeah. And she is great in that. That's a wholly internalized performance. She doesn't give much away through the whole thing, and the whole film is just this feeling of mundane office work the whole time, and she really just, you're still invested in it though, because you get it as you get this sense of what's going on in this office. It slowly becomes terrifying when you realize, and knowing exactly from real life experience, the kind of things that happen in those office settings. And so you see her performance just kind of trying to balance between knowing that everything that's going wrong is messed up, but also knowing, she's got to keep this job. And it's really great, subtle work. And she didn't make my ultimate list, and that might just be because it is so subtle that it doesn't stand out particularly well, but that's the reason the performance works as well as it does. Mm-hmm. Kind of this, contradiction of terms here, but yeah, it is definitely a good movie. And yeah, that scene with the HR guy is just wrenching. Mm-hmm. So she is.
Do
great.
Check that one out, Jawheads. Be a little patient with it, but well worth the spin.
Yeah, definitely deserves and earns your patience. But yeah, it is a slow burn of watching menial office work and slowly realizing just how horrible this is.
Into our twos we go. What do you got sitting there, Mark?
My number 2 is Frances McDormand in Nomadland. Frances McDormand just keeps doing these amazing things, and I don't know why I don't expect that, but man, her performance in this is so great. This is another subtle performance, completely internalized. And the thing about this film, directed by Chloe Zhao, is that it's partially a dramatization of modern day nomads. McDormand plays this woman who lost her job, lost her home, and lost her husband. And now she's just driving around a van doing odd jobs and side jobs. And as she travels, she meets a lot of people, and those people are real modern day nomads. And so McDormand's role is kind of to sit down and listen to these people as they tell their stories. And just watching her listen to these people, actually listen, really take it all in. You can't buy that kind of acting. She is completely invested in every single moment of this film. Her character's filled with compassion. You can sense this deep sense of loss and regret and mourning in her character. And this is, I mentioned this to my wife while we were watching, and I'm like, what really sells this is that Frances McDormand is so down to earth and so just amazing of a person that I could see her doing this when she's not acting. This would just be her normal life. She's just that kind of person. And I don't think any other actor could sell that as much as she does. It's a great, great, great performance. I loved it. She just exists in this state of being, of taking everything in and learning from it and kind of evolving her character as she learns all these things about these other people and hears their stories and just goes through this journey of coming to terms with everything that she's gone through in life.
Yeah. I had a very strong connection and reaction to Nomadland. I absolutely adore this movie. I was telling Ryan that it may not just be my favorite of the year, but perhaps my favorite movie, period, right now. I just loved it that much. No arguments at all from Frances McDormand. Great performance. My number 2, I'm going here with Delroy Lindo from The Five Bloods. This movie came in a moment that was pretty I don't know. It was a strange moment in the country. We were, of course, going through a lot of protests, the summer of this pandemic. All the tentpole films, Marvel films, DC movies were being pushed. And here comes Spike Lee with The Five Bloods. And I don't think anybody really knew what to expect. A Vietnam story. Chadwick Boseman also in this does a great performance. But really, Delroy Lindo, when he comes off the chains and just lets it fly right into the face of the camera, holy crap. I knew right then this is an Oscar-nominated performance. And in all honesty, I think he is probably, at one point, was an absolute shoo-in for this. And if it was up to me to vote, I would give it to Delroy Lindo. This was a performance of his career, frankly. And he's had a long and storied career, but this one just really ate the paint off the film. I loved it.
It's big, it's loud, it's a performance, I tell you. The ending, I agree, when he's talking right into the camera, just really hits you. Fan of it as well, Matt. Good pick at number 2. In all honesty, my number 2 was Chadwick Boseman as well. I'm in a sub one in here because when I saw Chadwick Boseman's performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, I thought, well, he's going to win the Oscar. And then I followed it up with a movie maybe 4 or 5 days later with a performance I think is his biggest rival here to possibly upset Boseman here. And that would be Anthony Hopkins' performance in The Father. And I talked about this as I had it on my top 10 list. Hopkins plays an aging father with dementia that refuses all the caregivers that his daughter, who's played by Olivia Colman, gets for him. And it is Hopkins' best performance in Silence of the Lambs. And it's funny because you always see movies when people are suffering from dementia. We see how it's affecting the people around them. But this is one of the first times we actually see how the dementia is affecting the person with the disease. And through his eyes and his confusion, these conversations that take place, we, the viewer, start to become sort of confused and get an idea of what it must be like to suffer from this disease, trying to connect to your daughter, remembering things and when things were told to you. And we see this and it unfolds in, a very sad manner, but Anthony Hopkins' performance is outstanding. And again, my favorite scene, I think, is the most crushing, is a scene where he's supposed to be happy meeting this new assistant who reminds him of one of his daughters. And he's just in this happy mood. He gets a little whiskey. He talks about how he used to be a tap dancer. And on the surface, he's happy. But as we, the viewers, and as his daughter can clearly see, the behavior is actually sad also, because it's coming from a false standpoint. And knowing that, it's eating us up inside of why he's so happy. But through and through, what a performance. I loved Anthony Hopkins in this. I think it's Chadwick Boseman or Hopkins for the Oscar, in my opinion. Mark?
Yeah, that's probably what it's going to come down to for the Oscars. The Father, easily, it made my top 10 of the year. Hopkins is easily one of the best performances of the year for me too. And yeah, you're right. It's a completely crushing film because you quickly understand exactly what's going on and you get the trickery that's being pulled off, but you're still so completely confused by it. But what you're right about is that Hopkins' performance is full of so much life and it's full of this energy, and he's always kind of happy and optimistic, bordering on this. Even when he doesn't know what's going on, he kind of plays it off like, oh yeah, of course that's the way it is. And so you brought up the ones, I don't know if it's the same scene we're talking about, but by the end of the film, it gets into that sense of him being completely frail and vulnerable, and to see all of that life just diminish in an instant, that's what really crushes you. And Hopkins's performance is what does that. I was really affected by those final minutes of the film.
Yep. Anthony Hopkins in The Father. Definitely one of the best performances. My second favorite of the year. Here it is. It's Cinemajaw. It's our favorite performances of the year. Mark, what do you got sitting there?
My number one, Matt brought it up as a number two, is Delroy Lindo in The Five Bloods.
Oh, nice. All right.
Oh, man, I love this performance. Delroy Lindo is one of those actors who, whenever he shows up, you're like, yes, I like this guy. He's always good. He's always reliable. He's got this great presence and charm. I remember him from, way back Get Shorty and all that when I was first watching movies. And I'm like, yeah, this guy's cool. Man, I was not expecting this from him. He is just exceptional in this film. And beyond the whole monologue talking directly to the camera, which is a great moment that could have been pulled off really badly, but he plays it exactly right. Mm-hmm. You can't do that kind of performance without playing it up just a little bit. Everybody expects it. Everybody anticipates that it's going to be a little bit over the top, but man, he doesn't go over the top. He just hits that right exact note of just about to go over. It's perfect. But the rest of the performance is great too. Very natural. He plays this Trump-loving Black Vietnam veteran going back to Vietnam, and the character is just so odd that you don't expect it, and he plays it so great as this kind of like, almost bigot and everything, and you're like, where is this guy coming from? What is it about him? And the other thing I was not expecting, I did not know I needed to see Delroy Lindo play the Humphrey Bogart role in Treasure of the Sierra Madre. But as soon as that moment happened and I realized what was going on, I said, yeah, this is pretty much going to be the performance of the year. I think he's just great, going completely insane, looking for treasure and some kind of sense of who he is and what he's supposed to be doing in Vietnam. It's great work.
Matt?
Well, interestingly enough, Mark, I also transposed my number one with your number two.
There we go.
Because mine was Frances McDormand in Nomadland. But since Jawheads and regular listeners of the show will know, I have gushed on and on about Nomadland. So I'm going to throw in a sub just for giggles, right? I'll go with Elizabeth Moss in Shirley, which I don't think is getting enough praise. Elizabeth Moss is just, her star has been rising like almost year by year. She does something a little better. And I'm not talking about The Invisible Man. Let's just not talk about that one. But Shirley, she becomes this writer, and sort of a Machiavellian type character, and we get to see her sort of twist the plot around, and then how much of it was just in her head, and the brilliance and the insanity of being a creator and a writer. I think Moss put in the work here, and it's kind of a fun watch, even though it's a bit of a dark film. I really enjoy just watching her work.
Nice pick. I'm glad that Shirley's getting some love here on Cinemajaw, since we were fans when we reviewed it. Good one to remind Jawheads. That one's also streaming on Hulu, so do check that one out. Leaves it with my number one, and I think it's no shock. I think if people have been listening to this podcast throughout the year, I've talked about this performance a few times, and I've talked about the movie very high up on my top 10. We talked about Frances McDormand doing a lot with very little, and I think my number one pick does the same. I went with newcomer Sidney Flanigan from Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always as my favorite performance. And it is minimalist acting, and she just conveys so much with such little. It's outstanding for someone as young as she is to be able to pull that off. She plays Autumn, the 17-year-old girl who travels to New York with her cousin to get an abortion. And we talk about it constantly, the scene that the the movie gets its title from, is probably the scene of the year. And I remember when we reviewed it, I'll say it again. For everything, all the magic that happens during that scene and the emotion we feel is all from Sidney Flanigan. That subtle acting, the way she's finally opening up, and it's just marvelous. And no quick edits that we can go back to and say, oh, wonder how the acting was. It's just a stagnant shot on Sidney Flanigan, and that packs all the emotion to the entire scene and really the entire movie.
I think that they didn't allow that escape because the character couldn't escape the honesty of that moment. So if they had a cutaway, that would have given some sort of relief and taken all the air out of that scene. I agree. It was just well done all around.
Yeah. Talia Ryder, who plays the cousin, is also really great in that. She made my top 5 supporting performances of the year.
There you go. Couple of honorables that we didn't mention. Just a couple that can be in any category. I never thought I'd say it, but Ben Affleck in The Way Back. This goes way back in the early year, but strong performance. Carey Mulligan in A Promising Young Woman, I thought did a pretty damn good job. And besides that, every other honorable mention you guys have talked about. So
same here. I mean, I'd throw Margot Robbie in as Harley Quinn, but that's just me. Douglas.
For me, Paul Raci in Sound of Metal. Brian Dennehy's final performance in Driveways is a knockout. He also has a final monologue that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Chris Hitchen in Sorry We Missed You. I don't know if you guys saw that one. The one's about a family in London who takes on gig jobs and learns the horrors of the gig economy. Great film. Let's see. Elizabeth Moss, but in The Invisible Man, Matt.
Come on, dude.
The Invisible Man is great.
No.
That's it.
That's it.
And
that's it. Mark said.
Random one. Eva Whittaker in Wolfwalkers, who plays the girl who transforms. That's a great vocal performance.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah, it's great. Fierce and full of energy. I loved it.
Yeah. Aubry Plaza from Black Bear. I was a big fan of this movie. I thought she did some great work. And Cookie and King Lou. I don't have the actors' names in front of me, but First Cow. What a team! I loved both their performances.
No argument. Riz Ahmed, by the way, we didn't mention Sound of Metal.
Yeah,
one of the standouts.
Sure. Jawheads, if we missed your favorite performance of 2020 and you have Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet at Cinemajaw, or you can always email us, feedback@cinemajaw.com. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Matt is taking Mark on in movie trivia. Plus, we're celebrating a Patreon. Stick with us.
As we close out our month-long celebration of Gary Oldman on Cinemajaw, we want to remind you that Gary Oldman is the actor we deserve, but not the actor we need.
Why is he running, Dad?
Because we have to chase him.
Okay, we're going in. Go, go, move.
He didn't do anything wrong.
Because he's the hero Gotham deserves. But not the one it needs right now. So we'll hunt him. Because he can take it. Because he's not our hero. He's a silent guardian. A watchful protector. A dark knight.
And we are back on Cinemajaw, hanging out with Mark Dujsik from MarkReviewsMovies.com. What about a Twitter handle, Mark? Where should we send him on Twitter? You're a tweeter.
I'm a tweeter occasionally. I'm at Mark Reviews. Yeah, I mean, I don't don't get into it that much, but I do enjoy it every so often when something comes up.
On your website, if people are avid readers, is there a way that they get alerted when you put up a new review?
I have a XML file, but I'm also on Google News. So I think you can, however you do that, you can get notified that way.
You put up a Google alert. There you go.
Yeah, you do a Google News feed thing, whatever, it's on there.
And again, for the jawheads that want to read your reviews, what's the website name one more time?
MarkReviewsMovies.com.
Boy, you snatched up that URL pretty early, right?
Yeah, I did. 2001.
Man, you can't get a normal sounding surname or first name reviewsmovies.com at all anymore. Those are all
really.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I should have bought some more of them when I had the chance.
Unless you're a C mark, the C marks are probably fine.
There
probably, yeah. But then I'll sue you. No, I won't.
When you retire, Mark, you can sell that domain name and make some bank.
To a Mark with a C.
There you go.
All right. Before we get to some Oscar predictions, before we get to trivia, we threw a few items into the fish tank, and I know Phil wants to swim up to the top. Let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
Dujsik! Wake up!
No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Thank you. I did. I kind of I leapt out a little early there to interject about the K marks versus C marks debate. We do have a couple of things in here, so I'll jump into it. The first is actually not something that was thrown in, but at the top of the show during Mark's interview, there was sort of what I took as a challenge, but I think was just a comment about trying to find a film in 2020 that Mark hasn't seen. We already mentioned Eurovision, but I think I have one more that made a lot of headlines that, for the record, I only know one person who has seen amongst every reviewer we've talked to. Mark, have you seen Demon Slayer Mugen Train?
Nope.
I've never even heard of it. Yeah.
Unbelievable. It's like it's the highest selling animated film in Japan.
Well, did it get a release here?
Not here, but there are ways to watch it. Technically, there are.
Mark
I won't necessarily disclose my channels.
I don't sail the high seas.
I won't disclose my channels over the internet, but there are ways. The only real question that we had in here: who played Wally in Uncle Frank? That actor's name is Peter Macdessie, who is the Uncle Frank director, Alan Ball's life partner, and the two also worked together in a couple of other things, most notably the HBO series 6 Feet Under and Alan Ball's feature film Towelhead.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, well, he's great in Uncle Frank as well. Definitely him and Paul Bettany are the two reasons to see that.
Then, did you want me to say, like, the last thing in here is the...
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Then the last thing we got in the fish tank hanging out for us today is our celebration of Felisa from Bavaria, Germany. It did, I do have to disclose, U.S. military affiliated. I don't know why, but that's in my notes.
Well, that's good to know, Phil. Good to know. Yeah.
She noted it to us, so why not put it in the notes?
Of course, of course. So, as always, when we celebrate our Patreons, we throw out movie libs, we call them. Just little get-to-know-you questions, movie-related questions. And for Felisa, to get to know her better, this is what she had to say. We asked Felicia a movie she saw way too young. Her answer is Poltergeist.
That's a common one. I totally get it. We've talked about the face melting scene in the mirror. And if you see that when you're like 5 or 6, that is going to screw you up.
I think that's awesome, because I saw it very young because my mother's a sadist. I don't know. And I think it's scarier as a kid. I think that's it's way more enjoyable. And like, I haven't looked under my bed in probably ever.
There's a lot about that movie that's still scary to this day. So I get it.
Yeah.
Poor Felisa.
I used to say that I saw the movie, even though I really only saw half the movie because I was too scared as a kid to actually watch the whole thing.
You saw it like through your fingers.
I totally did. I changed that actually this summer when I finally watched it. But all those years, I was just too afraid.
Alrighty, we asked Felisa a movie that she has seen the most times, and her answer was The Goonies.
I respect this answer. Felisa, get on board my Goonies 2 train. We need to make this happen. They did a table read. They got the whole cast together very recently in 2020. We can do it. Let's join forces. Goonies 2. I'm ready.
A new batch.
Yeah.
The Goonies 2, the new batch.
I think that was the Gremlins, wasn't it?
I know. But still. Great sequel.
Anything with a G, it works for. I've seen The Goonies several times. I don't know if it's the movie I've seen the most, but boy, we wore out that VHS tape back in the day.
Alrighty. We also asked Felisa if they were making a biopic on her life, who would she want to direct? And her answer, Taika Waititi, the Kiwi himself.
This is a bold choice.
Yeah,
Taika's been doing stuff lately. Maybe he would make it a farcical vampire flatmate story.
Well, I mean, he could take any story and make it fun. So if you got somewhat of a doll life, not saying that Felicia does, but it could. He's going to do something pretty spectacular. I think that's a great choice.
Yeah, just please leave the Nazis out of it.
He can. Please. I mean, there were no Nazis in Thor Ragnarok, right?
But there were in JoJo.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah, just leave them out.
Alrighty, we asked Felisa if she was starring in a rom-com, who would she want to play her love interest, and she would like that to be played by Oscar Isaac, Poe Dameron. I think that's a terrific choice.
Yeah, I think
he's so handsome, a good singer.
I mean, you can't beat that pick. That's correct. That's the correct answer.
There's just no other answer.
I mean, there isn't any other one.
Have you not seen Oscar Isaac? Of course, that's it.
He's a really handsome man. I have no arguments with that choice whatsoever.
And if you have seen Ex Machina, you know Oscar Isaac can dance.
He sure can. That guy can cut a rug.
Good pick.
Alrighty, and taking us home, we asked Felisa a movie that describes her sex life, and she decided to choose What We Do in the Shadows. I think clearly a Taika fan.
There you go.
That's a great title right there, though.
Literal answer.
Yeah, I love it.
I love that question. It's always a fun one.
What We Do in the Shadows. Great movie, great answer. Well, we want to thank all of our Patreons, and especially this week, we are thanking Felisa, very special, Brighton in all the way from Germany, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Felisa. And thanks to all the patrons on Patreon. We really appreciate you guys. If you want to join, we're doing all kinds of bonus content and fun stuff. Go to patreon.com/Cinemajaw. And any level that you support us at gets you full access to our bonus content history and all the new stuff we got coming out weekly.
Was that everything in there, Phil?
Oh, yeah, that's all we got. Other than me, that's all.
Jump back in that fish tank.
You bet.
All right, before we get to trivia, we're giving some hard-hitting questions to Mark Dujsik, Mr. 420 himself.
Smoke weed every day.
I'm speaking of the amount of movies he's seen, of course, Jawheads.
That nickname's not going to be taken out of context at all.
Not at all.
Just want to state. I'm talking about the amount of movies he saw. 420, Mark. Here we go. Your movie of the year, Mark. What do you got for us?
My movie of the year is Bloody Nose, Empty Pockets. Did you guys see this?
No, I really want to.
You will love it. I'm going to predict you will love it. It's just about these people at a dive bar celebrating the last night that the bar is open. That's all I'm going to say about it. After you watch it, do some research about it, and then have your mind blown. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, Ryan saw it, and he's highly recommending it to me.
Yeah. We actually had a Jawhead write in telling us to watch this movie. So it was a recommendation from a listener. And
you got my email. Sweet.
And it wasn't Mark's, actually. But
no, it wasn't.
Yeah. How about an underrated movie that nobody's talking about? I mean,
Yeah, beyond that one, because
that is very underrated as well.
Yeah.
But besides that, one that you don't hear anybody talking about that people should be talking about.
A lot of people, I brought it up earlier, but a lot of people either missed out on or forgot about Sorry We Missed You, which is Ken Loach's look at what it's like to try to survive in the gig economy. A father of a family of 4 takes up a job delivering for a company akin to Amazon, and everything just falls apart from there very slowly. It plays out like this train wreck of a domestic tragedy, and it's really wrenching to watch all of these very realistic depictions of what the modern economy is like just pile upon this family and completely start to destroy them in a whole bunch of ways. Great film, really tough watch, but definitely worth it.
And one I have not seen that I have written down now. I will check this one out, Mark. Hitting the Oscars. Bold predictions here from Mark. Who is going to win Best Supporting Actor?
That's a great question, because there are apparently a couple of films that will be coming out at the start of the year that I haven't seen yet. So I don't know. If you force me to guess right now, I'd say Sacha Baron Cohen for Trial of Chicago 7, but that's really out there right now. I'm waiting to see what the rest of the Oscar batch looks like.
Supporting actress.
Supporting actress, probably Maria Bakalova from Borat. I'm just going to say it. I think the Academy does like comedic performances, especially from newcomers. Marissa Tomei, anybody?
That was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but it happens.
That's true. All right. I'm on board with that pick, by the way.
I'm sorry.
I like it. I think it's a good pick.
Lead actor, who do you got winning?
Chadwick Boseman, more than likely. I mean, we talked about why for a whole bunch of different reasons. He deserves it, though, if he gets it.
Yep.
So.
And lead actress?
Frances McDormand, shoe-in. I think she's going to. Really? I think that's... Yeah,
that's
I
number
think so.
3. If she wins, that's number 3, and that puts her in a category that almost nobody is in. I mean, just the elite of the elite.
Her and Meryl Streep, right?
Yep, probably. I mean, does Meryl have 3 or 4? I don't know.
Meryl has 3, but not all in the lead. She has 2 lead actresses and 1 supporting.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to go
Katharine Hepburn?
Yeah, I was going to say Katharine Hepburn. If she's probably got, throw it in a late fish tank. How many Katharine Hepburn Oscars we have? But that's
I think she's up there. I think she's in that league, and I think that.
I agree.
Yeah, I think they'll recognize it.
Here we go. Best director. Who do you got winning this thing?
As of right now, probably Chloe Zhao for Nomadland. I think so.
And the big question: Best Picture.
I'm thinking, I'm leaning right now. Again, we still have 2 months of movies that might come out and change everything. But if you were to tell me right now, I think Trial of Chicago 7 is probably going to win, because it feels timely, it feels political, but safely political. You have, radical leftists, espousing the wonders of democracy in it. I think they might like that. I like the film too. I mean, I like it more than a lot of my colleagues, because I think it is a piece of political theater, and I think that's exactly what they pull off in it. But I think it feels to probably some Academy voters like the movie of the moment, and they might give it to it. Again, very early predictions with a whole
for sure
bunch of movies that haven't come out yet. And we'll be
We won't hold you to it, Mark.
Yeah, Phil, thank you. I appreciate it.
Phil, did you get an answer for us on that Jawbox question?
I do. For Best Actress specifically, Katharine Hepburn has 4 wins. For Morning Glory, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, The Lion in Winter, and On Golden Pond.
There you go. 4. All right.
There we go. So Frances McDormand will win one in about 20 years, and that'll be her 4th.
I don't think it'll take 20.
I don't think so either.
No, who knows? You hear the music playing. Everybody knows what that means. It is time to play some movie trivia. And in honor of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, we are playing Chadwick Boseman, Viola Davis movie trivia. Mark, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first. Let Matt Kay go first. There are steals, and if you get hung up on any questions, you get 1 rescue. Rescue me, Ryan. I do have clues to the questions.
Ooh, Matt beat me last time. I remember that. It has been.
It still stings.
I forgot about it until we started the show, and then it started stinging really bad. A whole year's worth of stinging coming back right now. I'm gonna go first.
All right. Question number 1 over to Mark. Chadwick Boseman starred in one movie with Harrison Ford. He played a baseball player in it. Name the film.
42.
That is correct, Mark.
Yes.
1-0, Mark. Question 2 over to Matt K. Matt, Boseman played Black Panther. Who played Killmonger in 2018 film Black Panther?
Michael B. Jordan.
That is correct. That is correct. Got the easy ones out of the way. It stands 1-1. Question 3, back over to Mark Dujsik. Viola Davis has appeared in one DC comic movie. Name it.
Suicide Squad.
That is correct also. 2-1, Mark. Question 4 over to Matt K. Wow. Name the 2019 film in which Chadwick Boseman played a New York City detective who uncovers a massive conspiracy while hunting down 2 cop killers.
I have no clue on this one.
We do have a rescue if you need it.
My guess is Motherless Brooklyn.
Absolutely incorrect. We got a chance for a steal here, Mark.
Yay.
Do you need me to repeat or do you know this one?
I would like you to repeat so that I can figure out the number of these objects. Because I don't remember that part.
All right. 2019, Chadwick Boseman played a New York detective who uncovers a massive conspiracy while hunting down 2 cop killers.
Oh,
name the movie.
It's a certain, I'm not done yet. It's a certain number of bridges in New York.
He is on the right path.
And I don't remember how many freaking bridges there are in New York or the title of the first number of the movie. So I'm going to say 21 bridges.
He did get that one.
Nailed it.
It is 21 bridges. Mark takes a commanding 3-1 lead.
Oh boy, it's not looking good for me.
Question 5 is over to Mark. Mark, Viola Davis starred in one film with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yes.
I doubt you're going to win this one, Matt. It is
No
now.
doubt.
Oh man, come on,
It is
you
now
guys.
4-1, Mark Dujsik. Question 6 swings over to Matt K. Matt, Viola Davis has made one movie with Julia Roberts. It came out in 2010. Name the movie.
2010, huh?
Viola Davis, Julia Roberts.
Aaron Brockovich.
What a guess, but that is absolutely incorrect. Mark, you got a chance for a steal.
I have 2 ideas from vaguely that era, that year, that time period, and I'm going to go on a limb and say that Viola Davis might have been in Eat, Pray, Love.
It is Mark's Night Tonight.
Wow. Damn.
Wow.
Who remembers that? Well done, sir.
5-1 at this point.
Jesus.
The ball game is
The
over.
PTSD is officially cured.
I'm good now. I feel my ego has been restored. I'm good.
All right, 5-1 at this point. I don't know if you've seen Greenland, the new Gerard Butler film.
I did.
All right. It for some reason spurred me some Gerard Butler questions at the end of this, I realized. So question 7 is this to you, Mark. Chadwick Boseman made one movie with Gerard Butler. It came out in 2016. Name the film.
Oh, Gods of Egypt.
Oh my God. He is on fire.
Now that's a worse movie than Greenland.
It is now 6-1 with the last question of the game over to you, Matt.
Well, at least it's not a shutout.
How about this though, Matt? Viola Davis has made one movie with Gerard Butler.
I know this.
It came out in 2009. Name that movie.
Okay, so it's one of the, I think it's Olympus Has Fallen, but I'm going to go ahead and say Rescue Me, Ryan.
Whoa, rescue me, Ryan, on question number 8 when he's losing 6-1. I like the tenacity. Your clue is Jamie Foxx is also in this movie.
Really? Huh. It's not what I thought it was. I'm going to just go ahead and guess Olympus Has Fallen anyway.
That is incorrect. That is incorrect.
Huh.
Can you rescue me too? Because I still have one. Give me another hint. 2009.
2009, Viola Davis and the great Gerard Butler.
And Jamie Foxx.
And Jamie Foxx is also in it.
Jamie Foxx, Gerard Butler. Oh, man. Stealth?
That is incorrect.
Damn.
We were looking for a law-abiding citizen.
Oh!
Damn.
Wow. Such a memorable
you still
film.
kicked my ass, Mark. Well done,
sorry.
sir. Virtual
Good
handshake.
job.
Mark wins this one. There you go, 6-1. If it came down to a tie, we call it a jawbreaker. This question would have been to Mark. Viola Davis movie Widows. Great movie or no?
Oh, boy. Let me think. I know what I think. I think you think it might be a great movie.
Yeah, we'd give him that one. It's a great movie. The real jawbreaker was this. Age of Viola Davis closest to. Matt, you got to guess on how old Viola Davis is.
53 years old.
Lock him
that
in.
That might be high.
53. Mark, you got to guess?
Timeless. I'm going to say 51.
Give that one to Matt K. 55 for Viola Davis.
Okay.
Yep.
I was also correct.
Timeless does win. Oh, man. Brings us to the end of a great jaw. And first and foremost, we got to thank our guest, Mark Dujsik. Thanks for coming back on Cinemajaw.
Thank you. It's always a good time, even from the comfort of my own home.
Appreciate it, Mark.
Look forward to seeing you at some screenings in 2021.
Oh, please.
Oh,
please.
Yeah. Matt, we also got to thank our sponsors.
Yes, thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op that help us get great sponsors like them.
We also got to thank the guy inside the fish tank, our editor, our producer, Phil Me and Phil.
Oh, of course. It's the best night of the year. Oh, I'm sorry, of the week.
Oh, this guy. If you want to support Cinemajaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And while you're at it, please click subscribe. One extra button helps us out a lot.
Until next week, I'm Ryan, the movie guy.
I'm Matt K.
And keep on jawing about the movies.